I never imagined you could dive so deep into your own emotions that the rest of the world simply fades away. My name's Daniel Harrison. I'm 45 years old, and I run a small but reliable distribution business for fine wines and gourmet foods in the Chicago suburbs. Ever since I was a kid, I've valued steadiness and order, helping my aging parents, making sure my sister Lisa could pay for college, sticking by my old fishing buddies, Mike and Steve, since our college days. Evenings were predictable. Drive home to our cozy Naperville house, check the bills, attend the local business council meeting, then settle in for a quiet family dinner. Until I met her, I thought stability was the highest good. Then Lisa sent me an Instagram photo. A tall, slender girl in a white sundress standing on the shores of Lake Geneva, wheat blonde hair dancing in the breeze, a knowing half-smile playing on her lips. "Isn't she gorgeous?" she texted. I nodded to myself and impulsively commented, "Absolutely stunning." To my surprise, an hour later she replied, "Thanks, Daniel." My skin tingled. A few more light exchanges, weather, weekend plans, a compliment here and there, and suddenly I was a teenager again, palms sweaty at the prospect of asking her out. A couple of weeks later, she suggested grabbing coffee at the Starbucks on Manhattan Avenue. "I'm interning at Lorelei Creative," she said, sliding into her seat across from me. She wore light jeans, an ivory cashmere sweater, and a delicate silver necklace that brushed just beneath her collarbone. Her voice chimed like a bell. "Hi, Daniel." At "Hello, Emily," the city outside disappeared. No cars, no passers-by, just her dark amber eyes studying me as if I were a rare work of art. We talked books, music, dream destinations, and for the first time in my life, I forgot to silence my phone because I was completely, joyfully absorbed in her company. From then on, it was a whirlwind of dates. Evening strolls along Lake Michigan, lunches at family-run diners around town, candlelit dinners in my enclosed porch. I'd surprise her with bouquets of white lilies and peonies, Belgian chocolates, and hand-painted fruit. When she mentioned once that she loved amethysts, I tracked down a pair of amethyst earrings. Everything felt effortless, like the world had conspired for our happiness. My parents beamed at us, Lisa welcomed her into our circle, Mike hosted barbecues just for the two of us, and Steve, ever the realist, warned, "Don't fly too high, Dan. Love's wings can be fragile." Even as I soaked it all in, a niggling doubt grew in me. I don't know why. I'd never been cheated on, but I began to worry. To play it safe, I had a discreet GPS tracker and mic installed in my BMW X5, my daily driver for meetings. Then, to that same Model S Tesla I'd offered Emily for drives with friends and weekend getaways, at least that's what I told my mother, I added the same devices. "Are you spying on me?" Lisa asked, eyebrows raised. "Just in case," I mumbled, though I wasn't entirely sure what I hoped to catch. Every Friday and Saturday night I watched her Tesla's route, usually to a cozy café at Oakwood and Maple, then perhaps vintage boutiques or the outdoor summer film screenings of Casablanca and Roman Holiday. Innocent enough, I told myself. But one late evening, after dark had settled in tight, I saw her car pull into Willow Creek Mall, nowhere near her usual haunts. Panic gripped me. I jumped into the BMW, fired up my app, and 20 minutes later, parked on a lonely corner of the sparsely lit lot. Shoppers were gone, lights dimmed, only a few street lamps throwing long shadows. I killed the engine, angled my headlights at her Tesla's rear window, and sat, breath held, straining to see inside. Through the tinted glass I made out two figures. Her, younger, lithe, those familiar curves, and a guy a few years her senior, broad-shouldered, leaning in. Their lips met in a long, soft kiss. It felt like my chest would shatter. Anger, betrayal, helplessness, they crashed over me all at once. And yet my body froze. I'd expected to leap out, scream, demand answers, but I couldn't move. Tears welled, streaked down my cheeks, and I let them fall. In that moment, everything I thought I knew turned brittle and sharp. Just a year ago, handing her those Tesla keys had felt like offering freedom. Freedom to laugh with her friends, freedom to explore. Now I saw the illusion for what it was. I wanted to hate her, to punish her, but love still throbbed like a wound. I stayed hidden until they drove off, then slid into my car and sat, trembling, until the parking lot emptied and the world grew still again. The next afternoon I invited her back to that same café in the heart of town, where once we'd lost ourselves in each other. Emily arrived, walking in like we were still that happy couple. But when our eyes met, I saw a flicker of guilt in her amber gaze. We sat near the window. "Daniel," she began. "I saw you leave yesterday." I cut in, voice tight. She fidgeted with her latte cup, eyes cast down. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. "He's just a coworker. We were talking, and it got out of hand. I never wanted to hurt you." I watched her, legs crossed in slim jeans and suede boots, the amethyst earrings glinting softly. I remembered how honest she'd promised to be. "You knew how much honesty meant to me," I said quietly. She nodded, tears glinting. "I did. I just thought if I told the truth, you'd walk away." We sat in that awkward silence until our coffees went cold. I paid the bill, gently pulled my phone from my pocket. "Thanks for the coffee," I said, avoiding her outstretched hand, and left. Outside, spring sunshine warmed my cheeks. I slid into the BMW, started the engine, and drove home in a daze. The radio played on, but I barely registered the music. Back at the house, every trace of her haunted me. The novel she'd left on the shelf, the robe abandoned in the guest room, her toothbrush in the bathroom cup. Methodically, I packed each item into a box and locked it away in the basement. The reality felt cold. No more rose-tinted memories, just plain facts of betrayal. Work became my refuge. Negotiating with a California supplier, meeting the architect about the warehouse expansion, attending a charity gala for kids with cancer. My parents checked in, politely respecting my need for space. Lisa stopped by with hot chocolate, quietly thumbing through old family photos. Us on the beach, me hugging her at graduation, snapshots of sunlit childhood. One evening I stepped onto our terrace, glass of that special vintage red in hand, and stared up at the stars peeking through city haze. I thought of Mike's words, "True love doesn't cage you, it gives you wings." I made a decision then. No more trackers, no more control, no more fear. Someday I'd love again, open-hearted and unguarded. Over the next days I pulled out my to-do notebook and on a fresh page wrote in big letters, "What do I want out of life?" Beneath I listed, freedom from fear, trust in others and myself, a love that needs no proof. I snapped the notebook shut, breathing easier. I called Mike. We met by the lake at that old picnic spot, and he slapped me on the back. "Heard you've been through it, buddy. But you got this." For the first time, I didn't spin excuses. I lost something precious. Now I'm going to rebuild. He grinned. "Life's not a blueprint. It's jazz. And you're the soloist." I went home and typed out every fear I'd harbored. Fear of betrayal, compulsion to control, a refusal to trust. Then I deleted the whole list, like erasing a draft that never had to see the light. I cranked up the stereo, letting a blues saxophone fill the room. Evenings became mine again, getting lost in novels, trying daring new Italian recipes, painting watercolor landscapes. One painting emerged, an apple orchard in early spring, two silhouettes on a little wooden bridge. When I showed it to Lisa, she gasped, "You paint? Why didn't you tell me?" I shrugged. I thought I never had time. Turns out I just needed to let go. We laughed, and I felt our sibling bond snap back into place. Then, out of the blue, I got a message from Emily. My heart lurched as if I were still parked in that dark lot. It read, "Daniel, I'm so sorry. I hope you can forgive me. Can we meet as friends?" I stared at the screen, weighing whether to open that door. A gentle voice in my head said, "You've learned the cost of honesty. Sometimes maturity is knowing when to open up again and when to leave it closed." I typed back, "Hey Emily, thank you for reaching out. I need some time to think." I hit send and felt the tension slide away. I didn't need apologies, just clarity on my own terms. Weeks later, I sat in my dad's workshop, surrounded by tools and metal scraps. He paused his workbench project and looked at me. "How's the soul renovation going?" I grinned. "Slowly but surely. I'm learning to savor life without fear or expectations. Happiness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from letting go." He handed me a small glass vase he'd just made, clear glass with a single thin stripe of ruby red. "For flowers," he said, "to remind you that beauty is fragile, but worth protecting." I placed a handful of lilac sprigs from our neighbor's yard into the vase. Petals drifted on the windowsill, creating soft purple confetti. I grabbed my journal and drafted a bucket list. Nearby wineries I'd never visited, that old lighthouse on Lake Michigan, the summer film fest in Glenview. Each item felt thrilling, not frightening. A month later, I packed the car and hit the road with Lisa and our friends. We laughed over rare wine tastings, picnicked by the water, and I felt whole again. My heart no longer pined for illusions, it celebrated the moment. Back home, another text from Emily popped up, this time a photo of her latest agency campaign. She wrote, "Thanks for helping me grow, even though our paths diverged." I smiled and replied, "Glad to see your success, all the best." Then I set the phone aside and returned to my painting, a still life of lilacs and that ruby-striped face. Now, as I sit here on the couch with dawn's first light spilling through the blinds, I realize my story with Emily was just one chapter. It taught me about trust, freedom, and the kind of love that doesn't need to prove itself. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of something even more important. The adventure of a life lived without fear, with my sails set to whatever wind comes next.